Know when you guys are ready?
Ready to roll.
My dog just got taken out, so that would be good because it will make this a little bit easier. So I have just here with me a yoga mat. And I do have a foam roller and some bands, but I'm going to show you guys kind of a way you could do these exercises with or without any equipment. I'm the weirdo that if I'm traveling and I'm in an airport and I'm needing to get a little bit of a core workout or stretch workout in, you don't always have your toys with you. So, but first I want to start with some, it's called hill breathing. So sit comfortably. See if I can demonstrate this. All right. I have terrible hip flexibility, plus this left hip is like basically brand new. So I'm still kind of working it in. So hopefully you guys can sit cross-legged a little bit better than I can. So hill breathing, what this does is I do this before any yoga or stretch session, but I'll also do it when I start to feel really nervous before a race. I'll even do it on the start line of a race. And it's just a good way to kind of center yourself and get a lot of us, especially girls and especially young girls, not to get too icky with our conversation here, but when you're going through puberty, we all tend to round our shoulders and we become shy of our bodies, right? So this kind of teaches us and helps me get a proud chest, because with a proud chest, I'm gonna be able to breathe better. And also just the proud chest, you run better. You just feel more confident and you're gonna carry that through anything else you're gonna do. So whether it's to get ready for a run, for yoga, or any other interaction you have that you might be feeling nervous or uncomfortable, this is a good way to kind of open that up. So hill breathing, I want you to think of breathing from your belly, deep in your belly, all the way up the front of my body. So my ribs, my chest, up to my collarbone is going to inflate up, but out as well. And then when I reach my collarbones, I'm going to let that air out of my lungs, and I'm going to let it fall off my back, almost like it's falling off a cliff or going down a hill, like a snowball going down a hill. So we're going to do 3 of those. So you're going to take a deep breath in, inhaling all the way up. You're going to hold at the top and really feel like, it's hard to talk and do this, but you're going to feel like your collarbones are expanding and opening. And when I breathe back, my shoulders come down and back, and you can feel right along your spine and your scapulas on either side, so your shoulder blades, pull down and slide down your back. All right, now the next 2, I'm not gonna talk, so we're just gonna breathe in and out. And one more time, in and out. So just by doing that, because I was talking a bunch, my heart rate was up, and now my heart rate is already back down. So it's a quick and easy thing. It really just takes 3 breaths, and you can do it as many times during the day as you want. But now we've sat, we're good, our hips have kind of relaxed, our shoulders have relaxed, our chest is relaxed. Next, if you have a foam roller, you would put this where our sports bras go, or if you're a dude, it'd be where like a heart strap monitor would go. If you don't have a foam roller, you're still gonna do the same thing. Move this over. What happens if I go this way? Oh, that works better. Okay, so I'll show it once with a foam roller. If you don't have one, don't worry. You're gonna put it where my shoulder blades, or sorry, where my sports bra would be. My hands are gonna be up by my ears. I'm gonna drive my hips up, roll back so my head touches, and then lower my hips. And then drive back up through my heels and roll forward. That one with the foam roller helps activate your glutes, but it also is going to open my ribs up. So especially if I'm traveling or sitting studying or any kind of job sitting down, you get really short on the front side. If you don't have a foam roller, you can do something very similar. You're going to lay flat, move up a bit so you can see my feet. So my feet are actually really close to my bum here. We're going to do 8 of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press through my heels and drive my hips up. And then I'm going to take my arms and I'm going to draw a circle, drive on the ground up to my head. Bring my arms back down and lower. All right, let's do that 7 more times. Up, drag my hands along the ground. Down, up, down. I think this is 4. Really squeeze your glutes at the top. This is 5. The whole point of this is I'm opening up my shoulders and my chest, but I'm also, by squeezing my glutes at the top, I'm getting full hip extension here. So my hip bones are fully exposed and driving up to the ceiling. I think we have 2 more. I've lost count. And last one. And now that we're up here, you can put your arms where they're comfortable. They can be down by your sides, or they can be folded up as like a W up by your head. You're gonna transfer your weight to one leg, extend the other leg out straight. And we're gonna lower 5 times. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stay up, switch legs, and lower again 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's something, obviously it's good for strength, it's good for mobility. It really gets us into hip extension. As runners, hip extension is one of the most important things for us to do. As much as I've had my injuries and my hip surgeries, the biggest thing that we've been hammering home the last couple of years is making sure both sides, when I'm pushing through my glute and I'm powering off my leg, my hip's getting in full extension. And when you look at any pictures of any Kenyan athletes running, they almost look like they're gonna fall over. And that's all running is perpetual falling. But by driving through my glute and getting full hip extension here, that's gonna help propel me forward. But I call it ugly bum, so don't laugh. So there's a difference between driving my hip forward, so I have a very solid glute here and my hips forward, and then ugly bum is where people tip their pelvis up too far. And it's almost like you're trying to like squeeze a marshmallow in between your butt cheeks. You don't want ugly bum, okay? So if I ever encounter any of you guys out running and I say you're ugly bumming it, that's what I mean. Let me see if I can demonstrate it. We're gonna stand up eventually anyways, but you guys can stay seated. I just really wanna hammer home the difference between a solid stance and an ugly bum. See if this will let me do it. Okay. I should have worn tights, but you guys are getting sweatpants. So here, I'm standing normal. This, if I'm over exaggerating my hip extension and knee drive, I get ugly bum, and that's gonna make me actually fall backwards. A solid glute, I'm driving down through my heel, my glutes turned on, my hip is in full extension. This hip bone is driving forward. And so that floor position, the glute bridge series we just did, is to help practice that both on 2 feet and then the 1 foot drill that we did. And the more you do that, the better your 1 foot stance is gonna be when you're standing up, that you can get to where you can stand in a standing A position in full hip drive forever. No, you're not gonna fall over. But moving on. Next exercise. You're gonna lay on your side, doesn't matter which side. Move this back so we have a bit more space. I'm gonna take my top leg. You can't see my feet, there we go. I'm gonna take my top leg and drop it behind me so my toes are touching my heel. Does that make sense? Thumbs up if you understand what I'm saying. Cool. Now, I wanna make sure my hips are not rolling forward and I'm not rolling and laying back. So I want my hips stacked. So that means that my hips are on top of each other and I'm in a straight line from shoulder to hip to ankles, keeping in mind your top ankle is now back behind you a little bit. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna raise and lower my leg 8 times. The whole time I'm squeezing this top glute. So again, I'm gonna be very repetitive here. I'm in full hip extension on that top leg. And as I extend the leg up, I'm gonna make sure I'm pressing through that heel. So my leg is as straight as possible. And my glute is now turned on, driving my hip forward, but it's also turned on, pressing my heel down. So I'm getting my glute max and my glute med doing this. And we're gonna raise and lower 8 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And on the 8th one, we're gonna hold up. And now we're gonna drop in front, touch our heel to the ground, come back up, and behind. That was 1. We got 4 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, switch sides.
So Lanni, with this one, are you pointing your toes up or are they being pointed down?
The toes are neutral. So I have really ugly feet, so do not judge my feet right now. So this is the lower shot. Yep. So when I'm doing just the 8 raises, I'm pressing through my heel and I'm trying to keep my toe as straightforward as possible. So I'm not pointing it down. I'm not turning it up. You can do that and that will hit different parts of your hip rotators. But for the purpose of today, we're just gonna keep it straight, mainly because if some of you have a slight hip impingement or any hip tightness, you need to work with a physio to figure out if you need to work on turning your toe down or up more. And I don't want to be responsible for making something tighter than it needs to be. So this is, if you don't know, this is a good, just neutral way to do it. So we're going to do this side now. We're going to go up and down 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold at the top. And again, we're going to drop forward, tap the heel on the ground. So this one, you will have a bit of a toe rotation. And then pull it back and tap your toe on the ground. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and that's one. I didn't get the bands out because, well, I just didn't. That's one, if you guys had bands, you could put the band around your ankles, around your ankles, around the bottom of your knee, like below your knee or above your knee. Depending on where you put the band changes how the resistance feels, and it changes what part of your muscles you're going to use. I like to switch it up. The one thing I tell people is, even if you're doing this as your daily core or strength routine, you don't have to do it the same way every time. You don't have to do exercises in the same order every time. Switching it up will actually benefit you more, and doing it either before or after you run will have completely different benefits. So don't get in the rut of doing the same thing every day, every time, same time of the day, yada, yada, yada. Switch it up, because your neural system is going to let things hit differently, or it's going to hit your nervous system differently. All right, so now I want you guys to come up and just sit kneeling. Your feet are going to be slightly wider than hip width. I don't want them too wide, and I don't want them too narrow. So just a little bit wider than hip width, and your toes are touching behind you. We're going to start with our hands on our hips. I'm going to turn so you can kind of see me my hips a bit better. And from here, from this seated position, I'm going to drive up. And as soon as I lift off my heels, I should feel my bum come on, my glutes come on. I'm going to drive up. And again, use my hips to use my glutes to press my hips forward. But I'm also pressing my heel and my toes together behind me. I'm keeping my hands on my hips here. And you're going to hold and squeeze at the top for 2 or 3 seconds. And we're going to lower back down. And the reason why So I keep talking about your glutes and your hips, but the reason why I want you to think of when we're in that top position, squeezing your heels and your toes together, is your brain needs to learn that when your glutes are turned on, you can have other muscles firing as well. And so by squeezing your heel and your big toes together, you're actually going to turn on your adductors, so the muscles on the inside of your thighs. And that's going to help create pelvic stability. And trust me, as someone who's had to redo her entire hip, once you lose pelvic stability, it's really hard to get it back. So you guys are young, that if you can keep doing stuff like that and teaching your brain, when my glutes are on and my hips are in full extension, I want those adductors there to help stabilize my pelvis as well. So we're going to do 8 of those heel sits to hip extensions. When we get to the top, what I actually want you to do is bring your arms up to a wide position. So I'm going to stay seated so you can see where my arms are. And I want you to imagine you have a pair of jeans on and you're pulling your elbows down and back, and you're trying to tuck your elbows into your jean pockets on your bum. And what that's going to do is give me that proud chest again. But then again, it's also teaching my body to lengthen on the front, have my glutes activated, and have my scapulas pulled down. So now when I'm running, I have a nice, if you think of how Kenyans run, their arms can be doing whatever, but they have this motion going because their shoulders are back and down and gliding along and moving with their hips. So when we get to that top position, I want your arms there and pull your elbows back. So start hands on your hips, drive up with my glutes, squeeze my heel and toes together, and at the top, pull my elbows into my back pockets. And come back down. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's one that if you have a longer band or some tethered rope, you can put it around your couch leg and have it around your hips, and you'll have the extra resistance of hinging and pressing forward. But again, like we're doing it without any resistance. Next, we're on all fours. I don't want any super arched backs, and I don't want any rounded backs. You want a nice neutral spine. And so that means I'm pulling my lower abs in, but don't suck them in. You want to almost imagine that when you zip up your jeans, you're pulling in so you don't zip up any skin. And I'm pressing through my hands. My fingers are wide. And I'm pressing through, and again, keeping my shoulder blades pulled down and back so I have a proud chest. And then this, I call it the Kim Kardashian bum. So what I want you to do is you put your weight on your knees right now and think of pressing your knees out against the carpet or mat or whatever you're on. And what that does is it spreads your bum and it really turns on the outside of your bum. That's your glute med area. And I call it the Kim Kardashian butt because all they ever do is seem to like pose and really have their butt stuck out and wide. And if you do it right now, thumbs up if you feel a difference from relaxing your knees and pressing your knees out against the mat if you feel different muscles in your glutes turn on. Thumbs up? Okay, cool.
Glad I'm recording
so,
this.
Girls have a way of talking. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And I've seen every specialist in the world, and I feel like I have now come up with a language that I can explain to people what I want their muscles to do. So we have a proud chest, we have our Kardashian butts, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kick one leg out behind me, doesn't matter which one, and I'm gonna extend the opposite hand out in front. I'm gonna bring my elbow to knee and extend back out 8 times on this one side. Make sure when you kick out, you're pressing through that heel so you get full extension. So my hamstring and my glute are both getting turned on right now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you can come back down. Take a deep breath. Reset if you need to. Kardashian out your butt. And now do the other side, same exercise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. There's dog hair everywhere in here, so I'm getting quite furry. So that was kind of, like I said, I'll do that when I'm traveling. I'll do that before a run. This is stuff that I'll do in the gym to prime for a workout. If I add bands, or I can add weights and have them balanced on my back or doing different things, I can increase the level of difficulty for those exercises. But next, we're going to stand up. I'm going to move somewhere where I can have my phone balanced. Okay. So the whole purpose of that first part of the series is now everything's turned on and primed. My chest is proud. I can really feel my shoulder blades and through my back is straight and turned on. And I can easily find that hinge motion that I was talking about now. Whereas before, when I got on the call with you guys, I'd been sitting on the couch for a while. I was kind of stuck in this position. So now I have a very proud body. So the first exercise we're going to do is a single leg RDL. I need more light. Oh, there we go. Nope, even more. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to start in a standing A position. So because we turned our glutes on with our Kardashian bums and our non-ugly bumming, I can stand in a standing A position and I can feel very solid here. And so from here, you're going to kick forward, kicking that free leg back behind you. I'm going to hold the wall so I can demonstrate. So when I'm in this position, my standing leg has a slight bend in my knee because the hinge I want to come more from your hip. And this back leg here, I'm really pressing through that heel because by pressing through that heel allows this side of my glute, the free side of my glute, to turn on as well. And then you're just going to drive back up in your standing A position. Okay? So we're going to do 8 of those. So start in your standing A. Hinge comes from the waist, kick back, slight bend in my knee here. And then I'm going to drive up through this glute on the standing leg to my standing A. That's 1. That's 2. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. All right. Now I'm going to switch sides. Same thing, standing solid and pressing through my heel. That turns this glute on. Proud chest, tummy's in tight, neutral spine. Kick my leg back, slight bend in my standing leg. 1. Woo. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Okay, everybody good? Thumbs up. Okay, this next one, I'm glad my dog's not in here because she would bounce on me, jump on me, I mean. So this next one, now that everything's really primed up, if you have some space, you can do a little bit of a hop in this. If you don't, you can just step side to side. I'm gonna move my camera back a little bit. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know lateral skaters, but that's what we're gonna do. So to do that, you start on one side. My free leg is gonna tap behind me. If you're really good at balance, you can keep that back leg off the ground. And if you have space, you can jump and come back to that skating, power skating position. And then you're gonna leap back to the other side. If you don't have space, you can just step, transfer your weight, tap that foot back, or like I said, whoop, your balance is better than mine today. You can keep that back leg off. Oh, just in time for the dog. Okay, you guys ready? We're gonna do 10 of them total. So ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, look out, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Woo. Okay. I'll try to keep the jumping ones to a minimum because Pup McGee here. So this next one is a very similar movement to that one. But again, it's really, everything I talk about is always focusing on your bum and your hips. So for this one, you're gonna start standing. I'm gonna lunge to one side, but you don't want to step super wide. I wanna step just wider than my hips. Toes, knees, and hip are in alignment. I'm gonna hinge back and really sit back into that. For me, it's my right leg. I'm gonna sit back into that bent knee hip. And then from here, I'm gonna press my heel and drive up to my A stance. And then I'm gonna step to the opposite side and do the same exercise. We'll do 10 total. So that was 2, 3, woo, puppy. 4, 5, woo. 6, puppy. 7, 8, 9, and 10. She's whining. Okay. One last standing one, and then I'm gonna take us back over to the mat. Let's see. Best way for me to demonstrate this one. So this one, there's a couple variations we can do for it. You're gonna start with your legs slightly wider than hip width. And you're gonna drop down with your bum dropping between your knees. Don't let your knees buckle, but also don't go to the outside of your feet. You wanna stay with a nice tripod foot, so I'm very centered between my big toe, my pinky toe, and my heel. I'm gonna sit here, L. And so I'm gonna rock forward a little bit so my hands can come to the ground. I'm gonna turn my feet up and out. I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna walk my legs out into a plank. Walk them back in, sit up, rock forward, turn my feet out and straighten my legs, sit back down, walk my legs out, walk them back in. And turn out, walk my legs out, walk them back in. Rock forward, turn your legs out. I think that's 4 or 5. Walk out into a plank, walk them back in. Turn my legs out. Rock forward. Walk the legs out. Back in. We'll do 2 more for good measure. Sit back. Walk out into a plank. Last one. Plank. And come back up. That one I really like if I have no time at all. and I have to get it ready for a run. It kind of hits everything. It opens my hips up, gets my glutes going, gets my core going, gets me to pull my chest back, or my shoulders back, have a proud chest. So now to calm us back down, it's hot in here today for me. The next one is going to be hyperpressives. So just another breathing exercise. We're just going to do 3 of them. And then we can kind of just chill and stretch out while you guys ask me questions, if that's all right. Does that work? All right.
Perfect.
So I can't demonstrate the hyperpressive and talk. So I'm going to talk you through it first, and then we're going to do it together. So I'll talk, I'll demonstrate, and then we'll do 3 of them together. Okay. So for the hyperpressive, you're in the same laying position as you were for your glute bridges that we did. So I'm going to lay my phone down here. I'm going to lay flat on my back. I'm going to roll my shirt up a little bit so you can see what my abs are doing. Okay. So when I lay like this, my feet aren't right, or my feet are pretty close to my bum. My arms are in a W position. I'm just breathing normal. You see there's a bit of a space in my back here. You see my tummy is like pretty normal and flat. So with a hyperpressive, you breathe, take a deep breath in, and then you let it all out. And then once I let it out, I'm gonna start pulling my rib cage up and in, and try to feel length through my abdomen while holding my breath, essentially, with no air in my lungs. And when I get to the point that I feel like I can't hold my breath anymore, I'm gonna actively push all the air, the last little bit of air in my lungs, back out. Okay, so I'm gonna demonstrate, and then I'll have you guys go through it with me. So inhale in. Exhale. I don't know how visible that was on camera. If you feel like you're going to cheat, you can plug your nose and close your mouth when you're in the part of actively holding your breath. So we're going to do one. I'll take you guys through it. I'm going to talk, so I'm not going to be able to hold my breath and do it, but I'm going to have you guys do it. So get in the position, arms, elbows bent, arms up against the floor. I'm going to take a deep breath in, really fill your lungs. And then I want you to expel all that air out, get it all out. Now plug your nose if you need to and cover your mouth. And then act like you're inhaling without taking any air in. I want you to pull everything in your ribs and tummy up until you feel like you're just about to run out of air. And then now press it all out. Big whoosh, make the noise. Okay? I'm gonna do 2 more with you. So we'll start with a big inhale and exhale. Now pull in. Take a second to catch your breath, and we'll do 1 more of those. And then you guys can question me. All right, big inhale in. Exhale. And then draw in. Okay, that one's one that my osteopath taught me, and it's really good for obviously creating, I don't know if you guys feel it, for me, I feel a lot of pull in my abdomen and through my ribs when I do that one. I feel a lot taller and straighter once I sit up from it, but it also helps reset your diaphragm a little bit. And if your diaphragm can get a little bit stuck at times, that can then affect your pelvic floor and your pelvic stability. And if you don't have pelvic stability, you're not going to be able to engage your lower abdomen, which then means your hips are doing all sorts of crazy things, and then you end up in your 30s and you have hip surgery like I did. or it causes other problems. You can end up using different parts of your back to try and create stability. You'll see a lot of stress reactions happening further down the chain because you just don't have that stability in your core. So the hill breathing is a good way to kind of just calm your nervous system. And then those are called hyperpressives. And they're really good at kind of just like same thing, calming your nervous system, but move around and shimmy around and see if you feel a bit different. I always feel just a little bit longer through the front side of my body, and just like when I go to take a deep breath again, they have a lot more space to get air in, and I've expelled all the crap out of my lungs. So there you have it. That's our little workout. So
Thanks.
I can show other exercises if you guys have questions, or you can just straight up ask me some questions.
I think we'll go with the questions because I know you're a
Cool.
busy person. So let's dispense with a few of the basics that we've been asking the Olympians while they try not to be as shy as they usually are. You started with Dave when you were 14. What was your weekly mileage like?
He was very good about not letting me go up in mileage too quickly. So he kept me, we had an A, a B, and a C group.
Mm-hmm.
The A group were the older guys, like the high school seniors, some of the college guys that didn't maybe make teams. The B group were our upper elite high school girls and some of the slower guys. And the C group was incoming athletes, or athletes you kind of wanted to keep an eye on. So for me, I think my mileage would have probably maxed out around 40K a week. And that was even up through to my senior year. Like we really didn't do high mileage. Yeah, I'd say probably by the time I was in grade 12, I was probably hitting 50-ish K every once in a blue moon, but we kind of kept it quality over quantity.
Okay. And your PBs at the time?
I was just thinking about this today, actually. Somebody was asking me about my steeplechase because I steepled in college. But what was funny is at the time I steepled, my freshman year steepling, I was at a 1050 something 3K steepler. Mm-hmm. And my PB for a 3K flat on the track was 1032, I think. So there wasn't a big difference whether I went over barriers or not.
Yeah, very efficient on your barriers. And
yeah.
and you're not a tall person either, and you did steeple.
No, I was terrible at the steeple. I only did it because we needed someone at conference to do it. Yes. I went swimming every time. I think my 1500 meter PB coming out of high school was 450, between 450 and 455, give or take, right around there.
So then you went off to university in the States, and the next question we asked them is when did you start getting serious in the weight room?
So I actually lifted in elementary school and early high school, which don't do it in elementary school. No. But I grew up figure skating, right. And they had us lifting as a figure skater, which probably is why I'm as short as I am, because it can stunt your growth apparently. But I lifted quite a bit through late elementary school and through high school. Nothing crazy heavy, but definitely was lifting. University, we lifted twice a week, unless we were in heavy competitive season. Mm-hmm. We didn't lift, the sprinters lifted heavy, the distance crew, we didn't lift all that heavy. We didn't do a ton of weighted leg exercises. They're usually walking lunges or air squats type stuff. We were in the pool a lot though. We pool ran and actually did a lot of swimming. Yeah. And a lot of stuff where we weren't allowed to use our hands. It was just legs in the pool. So that was kind of how we kept our strength up without having to necessarily hammer it in the gym too much. As a pro, I got back. I didn't lift heavy once I was in law school. I just didn't have the time. In hindsight, I should have kept lifting. I started lifting more substantially again, 2012 and 2013 when I actually had my marathon breakthroughs.
Right. Okay, great. And if we were to ask your family why you're a lawyer, what would they say?
Because I like to argue. No, I got into running. So I got into running from figure skating because anyone who grew up in figure skating or gymnastics or ballet, they're very controlled atmospheres. Mm-hmm. And I have no problem with authority, but I like to understand why somebody is making me or telling me to do something. which doesn't go well in a very controlled setting. So the punishment was that I had to go run. So it just made sense that I would end up in law, where I get to speak for people who can't speak for themselves, and I advocate for people to try and make sure that the system is fair and to make sure that they have an understanding of what's happening to them. And that's always important to me.
Okay. All right. Now let's see if anybody is brave enough to ask you a question. I know how scary Olympians are. All right. Anybody want to put it in the chat? Anybody want to raise their hand? Anybody at all? Not that there's, anything significant like a $50 gift card from Aerobics First to the most interesting question. Not at all.
Questions.
Because I'm just going to keep asking. Oh, wait, Tana has a question. Tana has a question. Yay, Tana. She's one of mine for the last 10 years.
Nice.
My question is, what's been the most exciting or memorable moment in your running career this far?
And not your injured.
Oh my goodness. Not my injured career. Oh, that's tough. There's a few. Obviously when I set the previous marathon record, that was huge. That was a 28-year-old record that I broke at the time. I was 29. So the record had actually been set right around when I would have been taking my first steps walking as a baby.
And to meet Sylvia too, didn't you?
Yeah, Sylvia Rugger was still with us, and it was her record that I broke. So it was a huge moment. Winning a bronze medal in Toronto at Pan Am Games in the 10,000 was pretty amazing. Just to be representing Canada on home soil and kind of have the crowd. I remember going into the final kilometer of that race, and the crowd cheering was just so intense that I literally felt like the crowd was carrying me through that final K when I was trying to surge. I knew I was going to get a medal. I was trying to pick a color and keep surging. And then obviously the Olympics. The 10,000 at the Olympics is kind of a blur, but the marathon at the Olympics is what I trained for 4 years, dedicating every run, every finish of every hard workout, was envisioning finishing the Olympic marathon. And then getting to see the footage after from my sister's phone where they're screaming bloody murder. It's ear piercing. That's a highlight because I got to share that with my family more so than some of the others.
Very good question, Tana. All right, somebody else is going to be waving. Oh, Scott. Oh, Ella. Ella has a question. Okay, Ella, go for it. Ella's one of our Vancouver Thunderbirds.
Hi. What age did you start doing longer distances in races? So not in training, but when did you start doing 10Ks for races?
So I did my first 10K my 4th year of university. Is that right? No, I redshirted. Did I redshirt? I would have been in my 20s. Let's go with that. I was 20 or 21 when I did my first 10,000 on the track. I didn't do my first 10K on the road until I was my first year of law school. So I would have been 23 or 24. I did 1,500 and 3K in high school. I did the 1,500, 3K steeple, 5K, and 10K in university, all on the track. And then it wasn't until law school I started doing my first year of law school. I did the max I did was 10K. My 3rd year of law school / my first year when I started my US degree at Michigan State was the first half marathon I did. So I would have been 25 or 26 by the time I did my first half marathon. And then my marathon was 2011, and I was 26 or 27 then, something like that. So I was a bit of a late bloomer for the longer stuff, but I actually think it serves me well.
I think you'll be a great coach when you're done. All right. Oh, Ellie's got a question. Ellie's one of mine. She's got bears in her neighborhood.
Oh.
What inspired you to become an Olympian?
Ooh, really good question.
Oh, that's a good question. So growing up figure skating, my older sister was the one in our family destined to be an Olympian. She was phenomenal. All these different coaches would come trying to get her to skate with different guys to have peer partners, etc. In the 1998 Olympics, what would be Nagano Olympics, for the qualifiers, her partner broke his hand on the warm-up and almost dropped her on her head. So that was kind of the end of her Olympic dream. So in my family, any talk of the Olympics was about my sister. And for me, as decent as I was in high school and through university, I wasn't, I didn't ever think I was going to be an Olympian. It wasn't what I was setting out to do. I just knew I loved running. It was something that was my passion. It was really freeing for me. And it really wasn't until 2012 when I ran my 2:31 in the marathon. So I went from 2:49 as my debut, 2:44, and then 2:31. And that was an Olympic year. And I tried to get on the Olympic team, and they kind of told me I wasn't good enough. And that's where I was kind of like, well, I actually think I am. And I think if there's ever an opportunity for me to show people, like, you don't have to be born an Olympian, you can make yourself one, like, this is the way to do it. So that kind of is where the dream grew for me. It's something I think every kid in sport always imagines, but I always thought if I went to the Olympics, it'd be in figure skating, but that my sister was way better than me, so like she was going to go and I wasn't. So as running got better, or as I got better at running, and as I had more consistency with my training and with my health and got over some eating issues, that's where I was like, you know what, like, some people have the dream from when they're toddlers that they're going to be Olympians, and that's fantastic. But if you don't have that dream now, it's okay. And if you don't think it's a reality now, that's okay. You can make anything you want happen. And that was kind of for me. It was like 2011, 12, and 13 is where my brain went, I want this to happen. And I think if I really dedicate myself, I can do it and show people, like, you can have a whole full life and then go for some big scary dream.
Okay, let's see if anybody else is. Oh, Kate. Kate is another one of mine. Kate just did a really fabulous workout today of some 300s finally on a track. She's very excited. Kate is in grade 7.
Nice.
Okay, what's your question, Kate?
Was there ever a race that you just like didn't want to do, or you like didn't like running in it?
Oh,
Really good
yeah, that happens. Unfortunately, races don't always go the way we want them to. But yeah, I have had a few races where I was either really nervous or training wasn't going the way I wanted it to, and lining up I felt like was going to be the worst decision of my life. But I lined up anyways, and some of those races ended up being some of the best races of my life. There was one race in university during indoor season. I think it was the indoor 5K, and I was a freshman. And it's the one and only time I stepped off the track in a race. And to this day, it's one of the only regrets I have, is that I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't finish. I don't even remember stepping off. I just know that I did. And I vowed that I never would do that again unless I had some major injury. Like, I've broken an ankle in a race, so I've had to stop, obviously, for that.
Pain threshold.
But other than that one race in university, I've always made myself finish. And that meant that at World Championships in 2013, my big grand stage, I'm supposed to show everybody I should have been at the Olympics in 2012. And it was my big, like, hurrah moment. And my body stopped working, and I walked it into a 3-hour marathon to finish, because even if the race isn't going your way, again, if you're injured, stop. But if you're not injured and it's just not your day, find another reason to finish. Find something else to push yourself to get to that finish line, because you'll feel better about yourself doing that than stopping.
And I don't think I've ever been prouder of anybody than I was of you. We have a really good question from the chat, which I'm glad I don't have to ask, but I'm asking on Sophie's behalf. She wants to know what you do to advocate for women's rights. And I think the better part of this question is, what can young people do to help support women's rights too?
Oh, that's amazing. That's actually a really good question.
Yes.
So I have been very vocal throughout my career about, having equal opportunities for girls and women in sport and everywhere. The fact that I'm an attorney, for you guys would seem it's not a big deal, female lawyers and female judges, but it's not been our history in having the same jobs as men, and our history in sport especially is very, very short. The first female to run at an Olympic marathon was in 1984, and that's the year I was born. So I'm 36, which might seem ancient to you guys, but the Olympic marathon has only been around for girls for as long as I've been alive. And so I think that, being the figurehead I've been in sport in Canada, I owed it to make sure that we don't have we have a longer history in sport and then it continues. I've testified in front of Parliament. I went to in front of our government and testified on women in sport, because the fact that we can compete in sport now isn't enough. Our funding needs to be the same as our male counterparts. Our coach, we need to have more female coaches. We need to have you guys take leadership roles. And when there's an opportunity to be team captain, throw your name in there. And don't shy away because you think it's something the boys are going to do. Like, that's something you as young girls can absolutely do. If somebody is making comments about your body that you don't like, speak up. You don't have to be shy about your body. How I was talking at the start, how like we get shy when our bodies start to change and when we start to fill out more. Don't be shy. Have a proud chest. Question authority. I know that any parents that are watching are going to dislike that. But I'm in grade 9 in high school. It was the end of school. It was like June-ish, and it was really hot. And so I had a sweater on during the day, but we were outside on school break, and I had a tank top on. And I didn't have my sweater on anymore. It was in my locker. And the vice principal came out and told me I had to go cover up. We could see your bra strap. And I was sitting there, and the guys around me, they would wear, at least back when I was in high school, the style was that they would wear their pants really low so you could see their underwear all day, every day. Like they didn't even try to cover their bottoms. Like it was just like straight up, they're like plaid boxers or whatever. And I remember like pointing that out, going, well, like tell him to pull his pants up and I'll happily go get my sweater. She's like, no, like our dress code strictly says no girl can wear tank tops. And I was like, well, why? She goes, well, it's inappropriate. We can see your bra strap. And I go, well, then I'll solve that problem. And she goes, okay, great. You're gonna go get your sweater? I go, no, I'm just gonna take my bra off. The problem is that you can see my bra strap. I'm gonna take my bra off. Obviously that's like
a lawyer, right?
But that's where, like, so at a very young age, so the age group that a lot of you guys are at, like I already knew then there was an inequality there. And she took me to the office. She called my mom, and my mom goes, oh, you picked a fight with Lanni today. She's like, well, you're going to come get her. Like, she's going to be sent home for the day. We're not going to expel her because it's the end of school year. And my mom's like, no, like, send her back to class or tell her I'll see her when she gets home. Like, my mom had fully supported me. I think that's important too, is that I knew I wasn't ever doing anything wrong by asking to be treated equally to the people around me, male, female, or otherwise. And I think in today's climate, with everything I'm sure you guys have seen through social media and on the news, everything that's going on right now for the Black Lives Matter movement, as a girl, we have to be allies to them. Because if you're, as a white girl, as a colored girl, as any kind of minority, we all face very similar disparities in treatment. And as much as I want you guys to be proud women and proud girls, we don't get equal treatment unless everybody has equal treatment. And so everyone on TikTok keeps playing that if we go down, we go down together. And that's absolutely what it is. So as much as your question was what you can do to be a female advocate, turn that question into what can you do to be an advocate for anybody that's getting lesser treatment than they should. And that doesn't mean, and I think this gets confused a lot, when I want women's rights, when I want opportunities for females, I'm not saying that men don't get to have opportunities either. And when we're saying we want opportunities for people of color, we're not saying we want to take those opportunities away from white people. We're saying we want the same opportunities for everybody across the board. And by being a strong female advocate and a strong feminist, and feminism is not a bad word, that also means you have to be a strong advocate for any other minority group out there, because we are all in this together.
All right, that was wonderful. Ella from the Thunderbirds, do you have a question, or did you ask? Okay, I'm going to lower your hand. Okay, Ezra, if the question is about a beer mile, you've already asked that one, so come up with another. Okay.
It's not.
Good.
What's one mistake you made in your career that you wouldn't want another athlete to go through?
Oh, really good.
That's really good. I always say I screw up more than I get things right, but I would say the biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes I made was not respecting my body and not fueling my body appropriately and having this assumption that I had to look a certain way to run fast. And this goes for obviously girls, but for boys and men as well. You have to fuel your body properly, and there's no one body type that runs well or runs fast. I caused a lot of damage physically by not eating properly, and the eating disorders happened as a figure skater, but they ramped up as I got older, and I keep talking about puberty. But as a girl, I got really shy, and I didn't want my body to change, because the more my body changed in my brain, it meant the slower I would be. For guys, it's the opposite. The smaller they are, the worse they feel about themselves, and they think they need to be bigger. So you see steroid use or inappropriate substances going in their bodies that way. So like I said, I caused a lot of physical damage, but the hardest part for me to heal from was the mental and emotional damage that it caused me, and just not that feeling of unworthiness, and having to actually teach myself that I'm worthy and that there's no failure in missing a run and going and having a burger and french fries with my friends. Like there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make me any less of an Olympian. It doesn't make me any less of an athlete. It doesn't make me a failure. I'm not going to get fat doing it. Anything I was telling myself, those were the hardest lessons to unlearn, to like detrain my brain into that spiral thinking. So yeah, just learning to be kind to my body and recognizing that running is this amazing thing, and it gives us so many opportunities. You make such great friendships, and that's what I'm in it for. And my body's going to look the way it looks. And yeah, that I would say being very, very kind to my body. And the mistake I made was treating my body like it was just a piece of equipment and not something that I needed to love.
Excellent. Thank you for that one. All right, Lucy, you have a question. Let's have your question, Lucy.
Yeah. Do you have like a certain diet or certain foods that you eat days of and days prior to your races?
Ooh, really good question, Lucy.
Oh, good question. I'm just gonna grab a phone charger because I'm losing battery. So it depends. Obviously, for a marathon, everybody knows you have to carb load. You don't need to carb load for shorter distances, and I think a lot of high schoolers and younger athletes make that mistake, and their parents actually make the mistake for them, being like, "Here, eat this like huge pot of spaghetti. It's gonna make you run faster." So if it's a marathon, I carb load. So usually, if the marathon's on Sunday, from starting on Wednesday, I start making sure my plate has more potatoes, rice, or pasta on it, and the colors go away. So like I eat a ton of fruits and veggies usually. But the closer I get to a race, primarily a marathon, the less colorful my plate will be. It'll be, I call it the white American diet, the Wonder Bread diet, because it's just white food, white chicken, white pasta. You can have a bit of sauce on your pasta, but nothing too crazy. I'm just trying to plug this thing in. There we go. I don't eat any, like I love my burgers and french fries and pizza and Thai food and all that, but I won't eat anything too greasy before a race, regardless of the distance. Let's see. Fat and fiber are not your friend, is basically what I tell people. So the night before a race, you don't want to eat a big salad. You don't want to eat some weird granola bar you've not had before. You don't want to eat a ton of oily food or fatty food. You kind of want to eat very clean. But yeah, there's nothing that I cut out completely. Like before, I'll have chocolate, before the night before a race. Like I'm not gonna eat the entire bar, but like I'll have some chocolate. Yeah, I don't, because of my eating history in the past, I'm very careful that I've learned not to avoid anything and cut anything out. But yeah, you don't want to have a very greasy meal the night before a race. And I keep it pretty simple. My favorite go-to pre-race meal, regardless of the distance, is usually like sweet potato, some chicken or salmon. And if it's not a marathon, I'll have maybe a bit of a vegetable, more of a vegetable with it. But I usually kind of keep it to like sweet potatoes because they're delicious, and you can put like brown sugar on that stuff and maple syrup, and it's amazing, guys. And chicken or salmon. So yeah, it doesn't really give you like a direct answer, but I've kind of told you a list of things to avoid. Mainly, like, don't eat all of the spaghetti the night before a race. You can have some, don't eat it all. And don't eat greasy pizza or a burger a day or two before your race.
Mm.
After, have it all.
Yeah. All right. I'm not seeing anybody saying a lot, so I will ask a question. And you were talking about teammates and the people that you met. So, Veronica, tell us about Betty.
Betty is one of my best friends, Natasha Wodak. We met on the Chiva Ekiden team in 2010. So I moved back to Canada for law school, 2009, did a few road races, kind of did okay, broke my pelvis. Sorry, I moved back in 2007, broke my pelvis in spring 2009. So, and then when I came back to racing in 2010, all of a sudden there was all these like really good girls that I didn't know who they were. Natasha was one of them, and I raced her at the 10K championships in Toronto. And I just remember this blonde ponytail flying past me. I did end up catching her. I did end up beating her. But I was like, who the heck, like, who is this girl? And obviously she's from Vancouver and I'm from Ontario. And our paths didn't ever really cross a ton because I didn't race in Canada really at all during my university career. So we went to Japan together and we were roommates and we just became like fast friends. And we've both had a ton of ups and downs through our careers. And it, unfortunately, like, it was 2015 and 2016, we both had the same ups. But then since then, I've been on a down and she was on a down before 2015. So if we could time our downs and our ups a bit better, we'd have company throughout. But she is just as amazing as you guys see in her races and on her social media and in interviews. She's probably one of the kindest hearted people I've ever met. She loves cats, which I don't agree with. I'm a dog person. She is incredibly funny. I've been really proud to watch her compete these last couple of years, as much as it really sucks to be sidelined, and as much as the last 3 years for me personally haven't been what I wanted them to be for running, just with sickness and injury. Knowing that she was out there killing it kind of kept me excited for my return to running. And she was such a cheerleader for me when I was in the hospital in 2017 for my kidney. She would FaceTime me and call me all the time. And she had it was when Uber Eats like first became a thing in Toronto. And she had Uber Eats deliver me like a little goodie basket of things. But they wouldn't, the guy wanted me to like meet him downstairs and I had no idea she was doing this. And I was hooked up to machines and stuff. And she like got on the phone and was like pretty firm with him that he had to like deliver it up to my hospital room for me. So she will go to the end of the earth for her friends and for the people she cares about. She's an amazing person.
All right. Thank you, Lanni, so much for taking your time.
Yeah, no problem.
I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate being a part of the Lanni Pack. We do have a winner of our first question. So Miss Sophie, $50 to Aerobics First for you.
Yay, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Right, so,
thanks, guys, for joining me. I will say, if any of you, male, female, boys, girls, have any questions, like DM me on Instagram or my website. You can send me an email at lannimarchant.com and I will answer anything you have. If you want me to take you through exercises, I can send you videos. I know it's a really hard time right now with races not really happening and school. You don't get to see each other the same way that you did. So yeah, anything I can do to kind of help you guys through the summer to make sure you're fit and ready for cross country season in the fall, just let me know.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night and enjoy your run tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.